Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Nerditorium Live. Today I have Dinkar and Ruchi. Hi guys.
Hello.
How are you guys doing this week?
Very well. Very,
Very well.
wellish. Eh, Post
Very
of
well.
habit, sorry.
No, that's good. I'll take very well. That's good. Have you
I
guys
think very
been?
well as well.
You're also doing very well. Perfect. Okay,
Oh,
that's
I meant
great.
more like a very well. Let's get on with this life.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Today's a pretty chill episode. We're not spoiling anything, hopefully. Not on purpose anyway. And we're definitely not doing like an in-depth review of anything. We just thought that maybe we'll take this week to kind of do a casual kind of glance at what we've been watching on all the streaming services. There have been so many new shows in the last few months. Obviously, with Disney Plus kind of popping off with all the Marvel stuff, and there's been a lot of like I know Ruchi is watching Mayor of Easttown. Um, We've been watching a show called Halston with Obi-Wan. So there's a bunch of stuff that is out there which is on the fringes, and some which is very much in the center of all the just discussions on Twitter and Reddit and things like that. Shows like Invincible. We're going to be talking about some of the shows that we've been watching. So I thought maybe we'll start with Invincible itself. Ruchi, you have seen Invincible, so
I
why
thought we were
don't?
going to talk about the Friends reunion. What is all this stuff?
We've seen that show though. It hardly needs a
The
review.
Friends reunion?
I haven't seen Friends. I'm not
Yeah.
kidding, by the
You
way.
should start with the reunion and then go backwards.
I believe it just dropped tonight, right?
Right? Yeah. It's fresh.
Okay.
The most important TV event of the last 20-ish years. Then we want to talk about Invincible, sure.
No, it's not. Is it the most important TV event? No.
Of course it is.
I thought Game of Thrones was like when we dropped the final episode, final season. That was like that. I'd say that was like probably the biggest TV moment in like the last 10 years, right?
Also haven't
In the
seen.
last 10 years, maybe.
It
But,
probably it's
what
but
about
statistically
we were on
also.
A break?
Sorry.
What about we were on a break?
See, I know all of these.
This moment.
Like Game
Exactly,
of Thrones,
yeah.
I know all
Sure,
the Friends.
sure.
I'm in tribute to Friends. I'm only going to be talking in Friends.
Oh
references.
no! Don't please, dude.
I'm
No.
about to log off.
Well,
Bye, guys.
Can you
I
be any
thought this was
more?
going to be about the Friends reunion, so you can't blame me.
So
No,
I've
we
never
can't
no
seen-
blame
one
you.
told me the live was going to be this way. So that's
This is really important. I haven't seen a single full season of Friends, I don't think.
Full
I won't-
season of Friends. Okay, that's fair.
It's like 20 seasons or something. I mean, it's not.
It's got
like,
10 seasons, and it's
It's a
each have
lot.
got like 22 to 24 episodes, I believe, and it's fine. I know there's a lot of like there's a lot of people like in the last like say 5 to 10 years kind of been very vocal about how the show is not very inclusive. There's a bunch of issues with it, but
No, I just think it.
I just think it's
That's
become one of
funny.
those giants that everybody wants to kind of slay just because it's the biggest one. I mean, there are plenty of issues with plenty of shows that people watch, but
I don't know if it has any issues. Like,
I mean, it's
science
not.
is not inclusive.
Yeah, no, it does. It does have issues, but not like everything from before that era prior to the internet doesn't. Like everything's got issues. It's just
My issue is that it's not funny. That's my
that is one of the issues that people have. That's what I'm talking
I
about.
disagree there. I think
I
Friends
disagree.
is
Yeah,
very
exactly.
funny.
It's
Hilarious. My favorite
fine.
show of all time.
It's a perfectly okay show, and it has brought my parents lots of joy. So just let them have
There are
it.
lots of people lots of chat. You can't
Yeah,
deny that.
exactly. So, and my mom loves it. So and
Let's
Stop
pivot.
it.
I just want to say one thing. My mom used to watch. She used to watch me watching it when I was in school, and she'd be like, "Tejas, why are you watching this show? Everything is about sex. Everything is
Exactly why
about
we were
sex."
watching.
And I was just like, "Dude, no, it's really not. I mean, like, yeah, there's a lot of it, but like, come on, man." Anyway, and then she started enjoying it.
The spoiler is that he was watching the Friends porn parody.
That we'll leave to Jishnu to review, since he's the
I
master. of that.
believe, what Jishnu is the biggest Friends fan there is. I haven't seen the show in.
Is
years,
he really?
but,
I thought he's a Full House fan.
I mean, you can be more than one.
he's a fan of most non-core sitcoms, yes.
No, but he's like a massive Full House fan. I've never heard him talk.
Yeah,
that much
but I also believe he's watched the entirety of Friends twice over in the last year. So
In
you
the
tell me.
last year, well, I mean that's fair,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
just been
He-
putting it on to kind of It's like comfort food for many people. So
That's
I'll give
true.
them that. It's fine. It's all right. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Yeah, no, let's pivot, which is a Friends reference. Told you.
Great one.
Friends references only.
Let's move on to some of the shows that we've been watching. Everyone has got
Invincible. We were going to start with Invincible.
let's talk about Invincible. Ruchi, why don't you tell us about Invincible? What is it? I've seen the show. Dinkar has not seen the show, but for those who haven't, why don't you tell us what it's about and what your thoughts on it were?
So it's based on a comic book, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Which I haven't read yet. So my intro to it was I saw this trailer, looked really good. This is like the old school animation style, which I love generally in the entire thing. And the cast is insane. All the title cards, and my brother and I were like, okay, cool. So we have to watch this. I binged it in its entirety. I didn't watch it week by week. I think you did, Davis.
Yeah.
So it's basically a family of superheroes, except for the mom who's from Earth. The dad is like a Superman stand-in, basically. He's literally omnipotent. And he's super powerful. They have a son. He's in school, so he's about 16, 17. And his powers are starting to come in, or they haven't yet. That's when the show starts. The show starts with, I don't know how much I can say with the event that the show starts with, but something really grisly happens. So that's kind of like a whodunit, except we know who's done it.
That is so true, actually, right? Like, it's one of the few occasions where...
What is the event the show starts with, though?
I don't know if we should talk
Surely that's not a spoiler. It starts with it.
No, it kind
No.
of concludes the first episode with this kind of
Okay.
pretty grisly murder. And we know who the guy is who's done it, but the
think we can
audience
say it.
and the family doesn't know.
Okay, I'll try.
I mean, sure, it's fine.
There's a very Justice League-ish, like pretty much exactly like a Justice League stand-in group that also fights crime, that our main protagonist is not a part of, but he also assists them and everything. So by the end of the first episode, they're all killed in their headquarters. Like, brutally.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
Pretty brutal.
The Proto Justice League is all killed.
all of
they're
them.
all massacred, like literally, like
And it's pretty
shredded.
bad. It's not like cut to, they're all dead. It's very detailed.
It's very detailed.
And
Yeah,
and
that's
we
true.
know who's done it.
Yes. We
And okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
So that's what the show starts with. So I don't know how to go.
Well, just to kind of take off from there, I think the interesting thing about this show is like Ruchi says, is that it's a rare occasion where we know what the characters, like we're ahead of the characters, right? And usually I'm not a big fan of that, but you're kind of like introduced to this world and this family, and it's got like two sides to this entire show. One is very like a domesticated kind of family life and how to deal with, so it's very like postmodern kind of look at the superhero life. And then this other side of it is this very, fantastical, very, superhero kind of genre side to it, which is all about the action, the different characters, the different intergalactic kind of demons and dimensions and things like that kind of become the periphery of the show. And then there's like a high school drama which is happening, so it's got a few angles to it. And I think I don't know, for me, Ruchi, the stuff that was obviously the drama of like Stephen Yeun's character, this is his second Robert Kirkman adaptation, right? He's done Walking Dead before this. This is the same author's creation and his comic book, which has been adapted. And Stephen Yeun plays Invincible. In a very funny way, they introduce the show's title every time by someone saying the word Invincible, but instead of them saying it, it cuts to the title. It's brilliant. Yeah. I don't know. I enjoyed obviously all the high school drama bits of it.
Which is basically the most heartfelt part of the entire show. And it's really fun to watch. And Stephen Yeun is great.
He's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Actually, Ruchi, I wanted to ask you. This is I don't know if you got this, but like, is Andrew Rannells' character playing an Archie kind of like no, as in like a not a stereotype, but like, is he playing like an homage to Archie, like in this
Yeah, and he's
character?
also voiced Archie in
Yeah,
my
exactly.
opinion.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. So I saw that and I was just like, this is so weird. He looks like the character Archie. He's like Invincible's
That's
bestie, and like he plays this. He's kind of like doesn't know that his friend is invincible or developing powers until a little later on. But like he plays this very like it just looks exactly like Archie, and I was just like, that's so strange.
He's a classic. He's a me. He's a gay best
He's a
friend.
gay bestie. Yeah, exactly.
And he's amazing. Yeah, as he always. He's never like he's always underutilized for me.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Uh,
But yeah, but the show, all of the high school stuff is very. I'm not gonna say cute, but it's very, very.
That felt real.
Very heartfelt, and everything with the
Yeah.
family stuff, with the mom. Sandra Oh is
Sandra,
like,
oh, so good, amazing, yeah.
brilliant.
And of course, J.K. Simmons plays Omni-Man, and
Yeah.
he is just the most J.K. This is like arguably one of the most J.K. Simmons
The thing about
you can get.
considering the way it unfolds, so he's a very interesting character in a way, and he's great because it's such a layered character. as
So
well.
good, yeah, yeah. very
But
good.
yeah, but also like being a girl and and knowing and having come across like a lot of men in my life who are exactly like him in the way that they talk, that everything has almost like a double meaning where you're made to feel like this is like a trusting person, and you're also kind of like not, because you can't really trust them fully. They'll pass like a snide comment at some point. So he plays that almost scaringly.
So
Like,
good,
very,
yeah.
very good.
He nails it, I think. And yeah, it's just got a bunch
And
of
basically he's a harsh. That's not a spoiler. He's a harsh dad.
a tough
Yeah.
love guy. He's a
Yeah.
fully, yeah.
It's a lot of their dynamic as well, which is
Yeah,
And
because he's teaching him how to be a superhero, and there's a lot of like that father-son dynamic. But it's it's a really crazy world. I think the thing that really kind of I enjoyed about it was the fact that none of the action part of the show was realistic. It was very like comic booky, and it's not meant. You're not meant to take that part like. That's why the gore and stuff that is there in this show it didn't really bother me, because it's not like stuff that is like possible. There's a lot of weird
And
characters
the
in this
show's
show.
not about whatever intergalactic threat there is to fight.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, it's
that's
very
not
villain of the week.
living up
that
to it
kind
at all.
of-
There's like a fight of the week. They go and something happens and that will happen, but that's hardly the point of the show at all. There's gore, there's a lot of action, and it's very cool. It's almost like weirdly funny, self-referential almost. Since he's learning to be a superhero, he gets his ass kicked like a lot.
The whole season, yeah, he basically never wins anything in
Yeah.
this whole show.
And
Yeah.
he almost, and he's also not putting in enough effort to be, he's so caught up with like his friends and like
And his girlfriend.
yeah, his girlfriend, who's Zazie Beetz from Atlanta. Again, love her so much. So yeah, so it's basically that, but it's more about us trying to be like, okay, how are they going to introduce the fact to the other characters what we know from the pilot, which is something really, really crazy and grisly, and it'll affect every single one of our main characters, at least like.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to figure out how to talk about
No,
it.
it's I think that's
How
a
funny
pretty
is
good.
it? Is it a
It's quite
outright,
funny.
Yeah.
It's quite
Yeah.
funny. It's very sweet, like almost disarming. I wasn't expecting it to be. I think that's mostly down to Steven Yeun and
I mean, I think they do a great job balancing tone in this show, because like there are some moments which are genuinely like dark as fuck, and like there's stuff which is really light and really
So they
silly.
don't shy away, but it's like I said, family dynamic. So it's not all cutesy, and
Yeah.
it's not just like you just have to do better. It's not like that kind of a dad-son situation. Some of it gets very real.
Real, yeah.
So
But like for
Yeah.
example, like there's like how like very whimsical it can get is like, and I know this is pretty like it's gory also, but like Ezra Miller plays like one of the villain of the
it took
week
me a
kind of.
while to be like, who is this?
Yeah, and he just plays a really like loony character. You can't like, even though he does absolutely like horrific stuff, you can't take it seriously because you know how ludicrous all of it is. And I think that's what's so good about this show, that it didn't like put me off because of like, we've had issues with like shows which are gory for no reason and it's stupid, right? Like, and I know we've spoken about The Boys a lot. No, it's fine. Yeah, we've spoken about The Boys, being that way. But this one, I don't know. And it's the same team, right? I mean, it's the same producers. It's Seth Rogen and I can't remember the other guy.
Evan Goldberg?
Not Evan Goldberg. Not sure, but they do a really good job with this show, man. As far as the animation goes back, yeah, it is that retro style, but it's not like the best anime. I don't think that's what the show is like leaning on at all. Like the animation is fine. It's very much like your the straight to DVD whatever the DC Comics used to churn out for it's movies every year or twice a year, 3 years.
The art style is so specific in the way that he's a Asian lead, Steven Yeun, and he plays an Asian character. His mother is an Asian character.
Yeah.
And it's so there's always been that whole discourse, right? Of like, oh, animated movies don't have enough representation, and people like very old school people will be like, oh, it's hard to draw.
Which is interesting because he's not Asian in the comics, right? He's not. He's just a normal white kid. And here they made Sandra Oh obviously they cast her as his mom, and they cast Steven Yeun, and I think they just made him
so
like
specific, even in the features that they made. And my brother was like, that's so impressive that they've stayed true. They haven't just to be crass, they haven't just like colored them different. It's actually like they've stayed faithful to how East Asian features are, and it's a pretty good job. And that's almost like giving the finger to that entire traditional argument that it's really hard to draw ethnic features.
Yeah, I think that's all nonsense. They can easily do it, and they've done it with what is essentially that very old school. I mean, that I wouldn't at all call it rudimentary, but that very old school kind of animation is not like the leading reason for why this show stands out. It's definitely in the storytelling. It's definitely in the acting is amazing, man. Like just to list off like off the top of my head all the people in this who voice various people. Zachary Quinto, Mark Hamill, Ezra Miller, Walton Goggins. Oh my god. So there's like a bunch of really, really good actors doing very small bit parts and just nailing it because they're just pros, So, but the heart of the show is J.K. Simmons, Sandra Oh, Steven Yeun, they're amazing. Zazie Beetz, Gillian Jacobs. Really, really good. Solid cast. Great show. Good watch. Good animated show.
I'm sure there's like enough to talk about the finale in terms of how
we can do a spoiler episode later on, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that
Very
is
interesting.
interesting way that they did it. So.
Sounds really good though. Could I be any more excited? Probably.
Okay.
I could be more excited.
Quickly, we shall do a couple of questions. Did any of you watch Master of None? Ritesh J asks.
Have I seen any
the previous 2 seasons, yeah, but there's a new one out if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And I think it's all focused on Lena Waithe's character.
I believe so.
I don't think Aziz Ansari is in it at all.
I haven't
He's in a couple of episodes.
I haven't seen the second season, so no idea.
I have seen the second season. I'm looking forward to it. I'll keep it for June. It's very Pride month. And
directly to you, Yash Raj Mishra says, thoughts on Mayor of Easttown?
Oh God. That's very typical. This is not a secret if you're friends with me. I'm a sucker for even bad true crime kind of small town murder whodunit. Especially when HBO keeps feeding me more and more. Like I'm never starving thanks to HBO. This is from watching it. After every episode I've been discussing it with a friend of mine. It's okay. Is what I can say. As Kate Winslet is really I love this entire second act of older actresses, very distinguished actresses. They're now movie actresses that are now in TV, and they get their own prestige drama where they get to really sex their chops in a story that might not be the most meaty. It's okay. It's a murder. Everybody has issues in the town. Everyone's weirdly related in terms of experiences. It's not anything new. It still hasn't done anything new. There's one more episode left this Monday.
How many episodes are there totally?
There's 6 so far.
Oh.
And it's weird, yeah. It's 7 from what it seems like, the next one's going to be the finale. And that's like a weird.
It's just like they ask Kate, can you do one more? And they're just like, she's like, yeah, sure.
Oh, so my number one thought about Mayor of Easttown is that Guy Pearce is in it. And he's in it like from the first episode. And it's very, very sweet what he has. He's basically just a love interest for Kate Winslet. A, there's not enough of it. B, they keep leading him on to be some sort of like, oh, maybe it's him. It's so not, because he's hardly ever there. He's just there to go on dates with her, and then she flips out on him, and he's just like, oh, okay. And then he calls her again. And he's very sweet in this role. Like, it's so crazy. Like, last time we were talking on Memento, and this is like, he's just like a rom-com lead, which I've never seen him do, and it's very, very cute. And that's my main gripe with the show, that he's not in it enough for my taste. Like,
Nice.
he could have really, it's...
That's who
Evan
doesn't
Peters-
want a Guy Pearce, Kate Winslet romantic arc? That sounds good.
Yeah, and I think Esquire wrote like this article about like a drunk acting scene, and Evan Peters, again, someone who I absolutely adore. He has a drunk acting scene that you should, even if you're not going to watch the show, I think you should just watch that scene, because he's insane and it's almost stupid how good he is. And that's all I'm going to say. The show is fine. I mean, I've sort of figured it out midway who it is, and I think it is that.
Yash Raj also says Broadchurch season 1 captured small town murder mystery beautifully. I didn't make it through the entirety of the season, not because the show was bad, but maybe I wasn't into
I
it at the
have
time.
a favorite.
But I do enjoy Broadchurch.
I have a favorite small town whodunit, and so it exists already. So everything else is
What is it?
Yash Raj wants to know.
Twin Peaks.
Yeah, cool.
I wouldn't put Twin Peaks in the same
I know,
category.
but
as-
it's fine.
It's definitely
That's how
not
they
the
get
same.
into it.
Yeah.
It's the same starting point, perhaps.
Yeah.
But,
It's
All
better
right.
than Mayor of Easttown, better than The Undoing for sure. That's the review.
I haven't
You're
seen the
meant-
Undoing either, but it's
have to.
I love small town murders. Anyway, let's move on. Dinkar, why don't you lead us through Girls 5 Ever?
Girls 5 Ever
Yeah.
is a show about a girl group from the 90s. They're kind of vaguely modeled on your typical like Spice Girls type outfit.
More like
It's these-
Viva.
Yeah, kind of like Viva, who were also modeled after the Spice Girls. So basically, it's this girl band from the 90s that had a bunch of hits and then disbanded once their second album flopped, who are now all living pretty normal or like older lives in their late 30s, early 40s. They happen to reunite for one performance on The Tonight Show. And that kind of sparks this idea of like, what if we got the band back together? And they suddenly realized in hindsight that what they were doing in the 90s was not what they wanted to do. They were just like following the whims of their record label and a
And their
manipulative manager and stuff. And so, yeah, they start trying to script a comeback. And it's a comedy and it's hilarious. It's created by this lady called Beth Scardino, I want to say, something like that.
Yeah.
Who was one of the writers on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and it's also executive produced by
The
Tina
House
Fey.
of
It's
NBC.
from the House of Faye.
the House
so
of
like the
Faye.
music-
Robert
this is-
Carlock and Jeff Richmond.
Yeah.
And all. Yeah.
It's a Faye and Carlock production, and Jeff Richmond does the music.
He's also a
which
producer
is-
on this. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very Kimmy Schmidt.
It
in
is.
a lot
It's
of
in the
ways.
same that 30 Rock kind of.
Yeah, it's like the more
Family.
wacky parts of 30 Rock is the tone it's going for. So it's not even close to realistic. It's like really over
It's
the top.
very absurdist. Yeah. It's
Much
it's,
like
it's
very absurd.
amazing.
It's much like Kimmy Schmidt. Like half the gags centered around an invisible piano, for example.
Yeah.
And they do this thing where they have like almost every episode begins with this like clip from their earlier career in the 90s, which is typically like an appearance on TRL or someone filming like them on a talk show appearance or whatever. But there's tons of 90s jokes for that reason. It's very it's kind of Josie and the Pussycats in that way, like
Yeah.
a very self-aware takedown of the 90s.
Yeah.
But also a very funny show. The performances are all great. Sarah Bareilles is the lead character, and I don't know if we've ever seen her act this much, no? Other than
Well,
like,
I mean, she's been doing now, I guess, after her whole Broadway kind of
correct,
thing.
yeah. That's
The
nice
move
to see
from
her on
Broadway
TV.
to TV has been is a time honored one. So,
Yeah.
yeah, man, I love
A
this
bunch
show.
of Jenny Ellis Goldsberry is also
Yeah.
moving from Broadway to TV with this.
Yes, that
That's
is.
cool.
What is she in?
She's in Hamilton.
Wait.
She's Angelica Schuyler. No, wait.
Right, of course. What was I saying? Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, dude, I absolutely love this show. I think this comedy has always been like, I mean, 30 Rock may be in like my top 5, but anything that has come from that house of this kind of very NBC humor. I don't know what it is, man.
It has a certain unagi.
It has very good. It's it's fantastic. I think what's so awesome about it is that this kind of show could only have been written like today, because there's a lot of like, I mean, also because the whole music industry, there's so many good jabs at the music industry that that we're so aware of now, that have become such common language to people, since this whole process has become so ever present. Everybody can make music, and so everybody knows all the smaller jargon of like like his managers, like their manager in the show is like, in the beginning of the season, is like doing this hustle of doing a streaming farm, and he keeps streaming from different computers, like to just get the numbers up. It's just like those very small details about like the music industry and copyright.
But Justin Bieber asked his fans to do it.
What is to stream
Yeah.
farm?
Wait,
He
you
doesn't
guys
need a
have-
stream farm. He's just
He asked his fans to like stream it in like basically stream bomb it.
like to loop
And
loop
he was
stream.
like, use the VPN if you're not in America.
Why is his album not available in America?
No, I think just to get on the Billboard charts.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Oh, okay,
But
cool. That
it
way.
didn't work. Sorry, Justin.
I mean, I think after he put like Martin Luther King in the middle of his album, I think that may have changed.
That was
things for
before
him.
that. It's the Yummy song.
Oh, that was I forget the album. Justice. No, not Justice.
I think it's this album, the one that's.
That's
It is
Justice.
This album.
Yeah.
This album is just.
So this album has Martin Luther King and Yummy.
Yes, that's the whole
Yeah.
thing. It's got interludes with Martin Luther King in it. It's just it's amazing. Anyway, just to come back, Girls Five Ever is that brand of humor is amazing. I love it, and I'm obviously we all love Sarah Bareilles. We're so happy. It's so Dinka, do you not find it weird that she's playing this? She's playing this character like, like, oh, I really want to make it. I would love to win a Grammy one day. I'm just like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
This is maybe the first
does.
iteration of something like that, right? Like this is,
Yeah.
it's weird to see like a bona fide award-winning like pop artist essentially.
Yeah.
And she's
Legend.
making fun of like, they're like gags about like, Katy Perry and Roar, which is obviously like
Yeah.
a song that was, like everybody compared to Brave, and so many of these like inside, just like her own personal kind of repertoire that I just find so funny and hilarious, and it's
Yeah.
insane, man.
I think that's why. I mean, it's not like she's one of the writers or whatever, but it just kind of adds a layer because these are people who know what they're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like the jokes are like so. Like they're such sharp takedowns that they just end up becoming really funny. Like there's an entire song called "The Splingy," which is one of those like we will describe the steps as we dance song. So it's like it starts out very normal. It's like take your hand, put it on your head, and so on until like it basically devolves into like nonsense instructions. Like now, like two-handed salute.
Yeah, I
Very
love
surreal,
I
very
love I
funny.
love this kind of nonsense, man. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's just some of the best shit out there, and this is such a light show. I think that's the other thing that is really nice about it, that it's just super light. You can just throw it on. It's like 20 minutes an episode. It's great. Very Kimmy Schmidt. You're right. Very, very, very much in that space.
I
So
think most of it was made. So there are some. I mean, it's not a perfect show, obviously, and I think it'll
Yeah.
get better. But there's a bunch of like slightly odd moments or like weird little quirks that I feel are one of the more noticeable side effects of being produced during the pandemic.
yeah.
Like sometimes crowd scenes feel just slightly oddly shot where you feel like they didn't have enough space to sucks
Yeah.
everyone in. Or like Tina Fey appears as a hallucination of Dolly
Dolly
Parton
Parton,
at
yeah.
one point, which was apparently again a decision where they couldn't like she was basically in the system and tested and stuff, and they couldn't get through to Dolly Parton soon enough. So they're like, good, Tina's gonna play her.
Better,
Weird choices.
better,
Yeah,
just better.
better probably, yes.
Yeah. But I think, and Stephen Colbert is in this. In maybe one of the
bizarre.
funniest kind of like
Yeah.
cameos I've ever seen. He plays like a Swede who is, you know,
Yeah.
like how the Swedes make all the pop music in the world. So he's like the quintessential Swedish pop producer, and it is just brilliant.
It's a Max Martin type.
Yeah, exactly. So good. And they tempt him into creating a song for them after they say, okay, cool, I guess we'll just call David Guetta. And he's just like, no, I'll do it myself. It's brilliant.
That's dated.
No, but it's just it's just those small dumb moments in this show that makes it hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. Yeah, probably my favorite show I've seen in recent times. Yeah, Girls 5 Ever. Where can we watch it then, Kar?
I flew down to the US and
Met
watched
with
it on my Peacock subscription.
and we met with the vice president of what was Jack Donaghy's position?
Oh, he was the head of NBC and he was vice president of
Appliances.
microwave.
Yeah, microwave
Microwave.
division.
He used to head the microwave division until he got moved over to NBC.
After the fun cooker.
Yeah, under the Shine Hut big company.
So you're saying you have a subscription to Peacock?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we
How
do.
else would you watch it?
And no, the Geek Fruit Google Drive has not been turned into a place to house stuff like we're in college again. Man, that's what reminded me most of.
I didn't even know that.
Right. Girls 5 Ever. Great music in it also, by the way, Dinkar.
Yeah, very
Good
music.
tunes. Good tunes. Written also by
Bangers.
Sarah. Sarah Bareilles has written, I think. She wrote the title song, I think.
No, if I'm not mistaken, she writes their comeback hit
She has a comeback
Four
hit, right?
Stars, which
Huh.
is about, I think that's the one she wrote, because I know she wrote only one. But it's about basically how, why aim for perfection when 4 stars is pretty good.
Nice. So, great show. Girls 5 Ever. Highly recommend. Actually, both these shows, Invincible and Girls 5 Ever, are great watches, and you will not be disappointed. All right. Final show that we're going to talk about is a Star Wars show. It's called The Bad Batch. It is after the Clone Wars kind of came in and everybody became like this, big fan of the prequels, which essentially saved the prequels and, started the whole prequel justice thing because Clone Wars kind of redeemed a lot of the characters like Anakin and gave them more, like backstory. Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, who everybody hated when she was first introduced, and now she's arguably one of the most, fan favorite kind of characters now that we've seen on live action also. Dave Filoni went and made another show, which we all thought back then was the spiritual sequel to Clone Wars, which is called Rebels, of course, and it has 4 seasons. It was glorious. Ahsoka features in that as well. James Earl Jones plays Darth Vader in that. It's amazing. It's a wonderful show. But now, just this year, they announced The Bad Batch. And when they did, we all kind of knew that this is not just a spiritual sequel to the Clone Wars. It is the actual sequel to the Clone Wars. And it begins exactly where... Well, it kind of begins parallel to the last season of Clone Wars. So season 7 of Clone Wars... which was the final one, which they kind of weren't allowed to make because the show was cancelled, then they were bought over by Disney, etc. So many things happened. And the Clone Wars kind of overlaps with Revenge of the Sith, like, at the same time. So exactly what's happening to Anakin, Mace Windu, all of these characters. There's another, like, arc that is happening with Ahsoka, and we get to see all of those. In fact, many cool YouTubers have aligned all the scenes together in one a little montage. It's quite cool. It's like in a grid, so you can see exactly what's happening. And The Bad Batch now adds a further layer to it. So what the story of it is that George Lucas, everybody talks about the Clone Wars because George Lucas, this was the last thing he ever touched, is what we say. This is the last thing he ever did. He wanted to write this entire political kind of intrigue show and, commentary and things like that. And he created Ahsoka with Dave Filoni. And he also invented this idea that, the clones are not just like these disposable villains that like the stormtroopers are. Obviously, all of them start to realize that they're people, and they give themselves names. Even though they have numbers, they give themselves names. And they have a really emotional story. And, you see all of these characters develop and you start to become like attached to them, like characters like Rex and all of that stuff. So there's one batch of characters, of clones, who are defective clones. And they all have one extra kind of ability each. So George Lucas wanted to make the Dirty Dozen of like Star Wars. And so these 4 or 5, which are actually more akin to the Ninja Turtles of the clones. So you have like each character. There's Hunter, who's this very like Solid Snake type character, very Leonardo. He's the leader of the gang. And he has like not extra sensory, but he's like heightened senses, like a Wolverine kind of character. Then you have Tech, who is like a Donatello. Then you have Wrecker, who is like just this big Hulk kind of figure, but like a fun uncle. And there's the 4th guy whose name is Crosshair, who's like the very Clint Eastwood kind of man with no name sniper guy. And they introduced them in the Clone Wars, and it was really cool in the last season. And then they didn't do anything with them. And then they announced the show, and they said, okay, cool, this is going to be this batch of clones who kind of navigates what happens after Order 66 and all the Jedis have been made to be killed, and what they're going to do in this new empire. And the first episode, they turn Crosshair like into a villain. So it becomes a very personal battle between the 4 of them, the remaining Bad Batch members, and this ex-Bad Batch guy. And the cool thing about this show is that it's kind of filling in many gaps that all of us like super nerds want to kind of watch and see. And it's also kind of brought in characters from like Mando, Ming-Na Wen, who we all love, Mulan, and Fennec in Mando. She plays and voices like a younger Fennec in this show. So it's great.
Nice.
So we're seeing a lot of like, threads kind of, and that's the best thing about Star Wars. Saw Gerrera, who we saw in Rogue One, played by Forrest Whitaker, who was introduced in the Clone Wars. He's in this show. So we're getting all of this stuff. So we don't know. Like literally we could see anybody. We could see like Obi-Wan again. You could see like a bunch of characters. We could see Maul or anybody. It's quite interesting that way that you're really getting to see the fabric of the universe like unfold this way. Anyway, I love it. It's great. And the most special thing about this show is that they introduce a new defective clone who is this young girl named Omega. And because the Bad Batch season, they realize that she's a defective clone. They're like, yo, you're with us. And ultimately, the Bad Batch, which was supposed to be this really badass kind of action show, has now turned into 4 men and a baby, basically.
Nice.
So they become fun uncle to Omega, and they're trying to kind of discover what her extra powers are and keep her away, and why she's so important to this whole thing. The cool, interesting thing about all of this is that they're trying, I don't know, there have been rumors that they're trying to tie it all the way, the cloning process, all the way to the Emperor and Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker, and like how he basically returns. So they're trying to tie a really long thread essentially. So this is really cool because in Attack of the Clones on Kamino, the whole thing was to make clones. And then when we watch the original Star Wars, it's just stormtroopers. So they're just like recruits. So when did that kind of shift happen? And then you see like, Moff Tarkin and all these guys from the Empire say that, yo, clones are really like expensive. We don't need them, and we can get loyalists on the Empire side. So there's this whole like business aspect of it also coming in now, and we're getting a lot of these answers to why did that shift happen. It's just really awesome if you love this shit.
The problem with, well, not really a problem, but this is like a built-in function of a lot of Star Wars stuff now, where especially I think the animated stuff, there's always been this thing of it kind of like fixes a lot of
a retroactive fixing of the which is great because it's such a cool space for creativity, like, okay, cool, let's answer the question to why did the Death Star blow up so easily, and then you made an entire movie out of it, like, so, and which is arguably some of people's favorite movies, from all the Star Wars.
It's a better way to do it than I think so, but like that's exactly why it's interesting, right? Like instead of say fixing it in a throwaway dialogue in a future movie, if you commit to making an entire movie about just that one, like say Death Star mishap or like explaining the clones or whatever, if you're going to make an entire series, then you're kind of forced to come up with a really
Good answer, yeah,
explanation.
absolutely. And I just think that what's so awesome about Star Wars that Marvel never embraced until I guess right now is that Star Wars has always kind of respected the characters whether they're in animation or not. You know, like they've pulled characters from animation to live action to animation. They don't like make any distinction there, as opposed to like, you know, in Marvel, sometimes the TV shows would never be serviced by the films, right? They won't be referenced, they won't be anything. But these like characters have just like escalated. Rosario Dawson obviously plays Ahsoka now, so there's a good chance that we could see like somebody like Omega, who's this really really sweet young girl with this hardcore Australian accent. She could like be on one day in an episode of like Bad Batch in this one season, and the next like in the next show, which is like Book of Boba Fett, she could just like appear as a live action character. And that's just, I just find that the most fascinating kind of thing. And obviously it's a bit restrictive, but I think Star Wars has always handled their story threads and everything like almost as good as it can be. And they've always kind of been able to manage those characters. Every time a director comes in and says, oh, you know, I really want this kind of character for this episode and we need somebody to kind of come in and this, instead of creating a new character, they're like, hey, you know, we have like this whole the Lucasfilm story group, as it were, that's what they're called. They kind of just have this encyclopedic, you know, kind of memory of like all of the characters, and they have all the threads and where they've gone and where they've not been fulfilled, and they say, hey, you can fill in this gap. I just find that absolutely fascinating and just like some of the most fun bits about Star Wars. So yeah, the Bad Batch is great.
It's a lot like how in the early seasons of Friends, when it used to air alongside Mad About You, and Lisa Kudrow used to play Ursula the waitress on Mad About
right.
You.
That's actually a good fact, which I will allow, because
it's directly connected.
Yeah, they are. Mad About You, who had whom? Who was in it?
This is all canon.
Yo, was it John Cusack?
Sorry?
Who was in Mad About You?
Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt.
Helen Hunt. Why did I say John Cusack? Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Great.
You are.
Great.
And Lisa Kudrow played a waitress at a cafe that they.
And then the real question is: Are they gonna talk about Joey, the spin-off series?
In the Friends reunion? I know for a fact that they don't.
Have you actually
important.
Wow.
When he moved down to Los Angeles to pursue his career as an actor with his sister.
And he meets one of his sisters, played by, I think, Jennifer Coolidge? No, that's his agent.
No, Drea De Matteo.
Drea De Matteo. And this guy from Friends
his
only.
Nephew.
He plays...
Nephew.
No. Remember Chandler's roommate, Eric, I want to say?
Oh, yeah. The dude who looks kind of like Ed Norton.
Yes, exactly. And he appears in that show as a completely different character. And he has a son.
Yeah.
And they have a son together with his sister. Anyway.
Very Marvel.
Joey. Great spin-off series.
Underrated.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong.
Great. So I'm just going to quickly go through the comments. Yashrad says, Twin Peaks was crazy. I like crazy. David Lynch is crazy and we all are crazy. What did you think about the movie and season 3?
The movie? Oh, I'm so glad someone's talking about the movie. And you should watch it. It's canon and it's very important.
Love canon.
Yeah. Season 3 is... I can't talk enough about it. It's really good. Like, in a way that... At least, like, you can trust David Lynch to not do something that's cash grabby. Not that Twin Peaks would be the biggest, like, money maker anyway. But I love... Yeah, I was, like, crying by the end of it. It's very, very... It's always been very personal to the main two characters, even though they never meet, because one of the main characters is the person who died, and the second main character is the person who's investigating her death, who's arguably my favorite protagonist in anything ever, Dale Hooper. So the fact that there's, I mean, no spoilers again. The fact
no
that
spoilers, yeah.
Yeah, their entire trajectories are so inextricably linked through time and space, and I don't know how to not spoil this, but yeah, so that's almost, it's so emotional, and the way it ends is just like, oh my god, I can't believe that he would just wreck
Gotcha.
me. So, yeah. So I love season 3. I love season 3 just because, and I think
The
I
movie
should-
is before season 3? Yeah.
It is so it's kind of
When did the movie come out?
after both seasons.
Oh, okay, cool. So it's a direct like follow up to
Yeah, and David Bowie's in it. R.I.P.
Mhm.
He's in it like in a proper.
Peace be upon him.
Yeah. So it's about the movie's about her last day alive before the events of the actual show. So
Maybe we should
it's
do
not a very good.
maybe we should do an episode about movies that follow up TV shows.
Yeah, there's not a lot. Fun fact: last time we were talking about Mulholland Drive, that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a Twin Peaks spin-off of the
That makes
character
sense.
Audrey, who is, she has like aspirations of becoming an actress and everything. And they shot it almost with Sheldon Finn, and then that never materialized. So they shot it again with Naomi Watts, and that was supposed to be a miniseries again. Justin Theroux, he talks about it. And then somehow it was a movie. So there was an entire thing going into it. It was like years in the making. So that's Mulholland Drive and Twin Peaks are like spiritually connected,
Nice.
if not by literal creator. But yeah.
That's cool.
Anyway, Twin Peaks aside. Love this.
Harendra Kapoor says sick graphics, y'all. Aditya, thanks, Hari. Aditya Sharma says love the T-shirt, Ruchi, lady with style.
Thank you. That's another OG Abel Tesfaye fan in the comments.
Cool. And Magikarp says dropping by to shower some love. Heart emoji. Love your nerds. Thank you, Magikarp.
Is a Magikarp a Pokemon? It is.
It is, and the display picture is also of Magikarp, the Pokemon.
Let's see.
Yeah, but there are some other. I'm sure we could do an entire episode on that. I know Breaking Bad has a follow-up movie. Twin Peaks, of course. Serenity, Firefly. That's there. There's a few of these. I think we could possibly do an episode on.
The 6 seasons and a movie.
6 seasons
but
and a
only
movie.
The movie part.
Community, man. They were robbed. They were robbed.
We should talk about revivals, I think, because Dexter is coming back.
Never actually saw Dexter,
When
but
you finally find out what happens in his lab. I thought the last didn't the
It was
Dexter
trash.
finale kind of like shut it down in a pretty atrocious
I mean that's what
way?
we thought about
Like
Breaking Bad
he's
as
a
well.
lumberjack and whatnot.
Spoiler, but no, it's okay. So I think that's
That's
what
not a
the
spoiler.
issue. Yeah, that's
They
the issue.
spoiled the ending is what it is.
Did you see it, Dinkar?
They did.
I watched a bunch of the first season. I didn't like it too much. I thought it was
Yeah, I just never. Even I
It's
think I
just
may have
like-
seen an episode, but I just never.
it felt like trying really hard to be like, ooh, inside the mind of a psychopath kind of show. It's like, nah.
It was
Good.
okay, because it was legitimately scary. Like whoever would be like the villain of the season. Despite John Lithgow's in the
Love
fourth
John
season,
JLG.
he is still like the most terrifying, and that was like
I can see that. Who plays
he-
Dexter Senior? Dexter's father at some
his
point?
adoptive father.
I forget. But yeah, like I
Yeah,
can see why.
the one who invented his code. You mean the one who came up
Right.
with his code? Yeah. So
I
it is trying too hard. Post the John Lithgow season, it is not the best.
How many
at all.
seasons was the show? I believe it went on for 7?
8.
8?
Yeah.
8 is too much, guys. 8 is so many seasons.
yeah.
Yalla. All
And
right.
It's already did it recently end like what 4 years ago?
No.
No, it's
Been way more than that, days.
yeah.
Okay.
So there is
yeah,
a
but-
Showtime show that people should be watching, and it's called Z-Way, and everyone should be watching. That's my recommendation.
I would recommend Halston, a great show. 5 episodes, Netflix. It's got Ewan McGregor playing Halston. I quite like it, actually.
Ryan Murphy. Yeah.
I
it's
enjoy
okay.
it. Ruchi hates it. No, she doesn't hate it. No, she doesn't
I
hate it.
don't.
She doesn't hate it. But Yash Raj Mishra says thoughts on the Injustice movie that was announced. They keep announcing this movie, but I never see more than it.
So DC announcements are basically like Kanye album announcements to me.
That
at
is
this point.
so true. That's so true.
Until it actually comes out, I'm not.
Yeah, man,
believing.
they got me so excited about the Dark Justice League Dark with Guillermo that
Gods,
I would have
Batman.
I would have loved to have seen that, but I think right now we're stuck with Black Adam. So
Is Kanye running? DC? That would make a lot of sense.
all right, cool. I think that that's about it for our episode. Please let us know in the comments what you would like for us to review maybe later on. I think we've got Loki coming up. We've got Jishnu and I have a long overdue episode about two Disney Plus shows. One is called The Mighty Ducks, Game Changers, and Big Shot. We definitely want to talk about that. And yeah, maybe we'll review some of these shows. We'll spoil some of these shows when they're done. I definitely want to talk to somebody about Bad Batch when it's done. There's lots of implications. But yeah, man, plenty of stuff. If you guys want to talk to us, you can find us on our Discord. And you can leave some comments. There's some amazing stuff on the Discord I was reading about today about Tarzan. You should definitely check that out. It's amazing. I was not ready for that, but apparently Tarzan may be one of the most misunderstood Edgar Rice Burroughs kind of IPs there are. So really nice thread by one of the users on our Discord server. So definitely check that out. Harry says just watch New Girl, man. I love New Girl. It's so funny. We keep talking about it as being one of the underrated shows. Today he was saying that it's between Friends and It's Always Sunny, so it's like somewhere in the middle there. But I think it's even better than that. Yash Raj says Breaking Bad also has a documentary which is called No Half Measures, which is basically the BTS of season 5 and the entire process of making last season. So do watch it if you haven't already. Love, Death and Robots season 2 is out. That's true.
Halfway.
Yes.
It's really good.
Must talk
Much
about that.
better
when
than
it's
the
done.
first season. That's not a spoiler.
So yeah, I think we reviewed it back in the day. Jishnu and Dinkar did it on the podcast. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get around to it here as well. Cool. Dinks, Rue, thank you so much for joining me today. And we shall see you guys next week or maybe after that at some point. All right. Bye, you nerds.
Watch Z-Way.